I'd like to call this meeting to order, and thank you, everybody, for coming tonight. Could you please stand and salute the flag with me? Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Is there any changes to the agenda?
Just for item 2.1, we're going to go ahead and move that to the next meeting.
Okay. I understand all the girls are getting their prom dresses tonight, so that's why they couldn't make it tonight. Okay. Council approval of the agenda?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been motioned and second to approve the agenda. Roll call, please.
Councilman Ramirez?
Aye.
Councilman Horn?
Aye.
Councilman Atkinson? Mayor Pro Tem Singleton?
Aye.
And Mayor Ramsey.
I also vote aye. Okay. Go to number 2, awards, presentations, appointments, and proclamations. The first one is swearing in of Police Officer Cody Slees. Chief?
Good evening, Mayor, Council, City Manager, staff, and community, the families and friends of the officers. This evening, we'll be officially swearing in 3 new Kalinga police officers. The officers recently graduated from the Fresno Police Academy, and 2 were sponsored by the City of Kalinga. As I called each officer to the podium, I have a short bio to read, and you will notice that all 3 have something in common. Kalinga is their hometown.
All right.
So with that, I'd like to start with the first officer. Officer Cody Cease lives in Kalinga and married to his beautiful wife, Alexis. And they have 2 kids, Gracie 6 and Corbin 4. Officer Cease grew up in the city of Kalinga and graduated from Kalinga High in 2011. In 2013, he was hired as a part-time groundskeeper for the city of Kalinga. While working for the city of Kalinga, he had an opportunity to work as a maintenance worker and a water treatment operator. He would like to thank the city of Kalinga and the police department for giving him the opportunity to serve his community. Next officer. Officer Brady Kaiser has spent most of his life here in Kalinga, graduating from Kalinga High in 2015. Officer Kaiser began working for the police department as a police technician in 2019. In September of 2021, the city of Kalinga sponsored him through the Fresno Police Academy, where he graduated in March of this year. He's excited to be an officer for the city of Kalinga and to give back to his community. Next, we have Officer Guadalupe Arroyo, is a Kalinga native who grew up here and graduated from Kalinga High School in 2013. In 2014, Officer Arroyo started college at Cal State University of Fresno, where she graduated with a Bachelor's of Science degree in Public Health. She married her high school sweetheart, and they welcomed their first daughter, Teresa, in 2019. She recently graduated from the Fresno Police Academy in March and was fortunate enough to get hired with the Kalinga Police Department. Some of her family and closest friends still live in the city, so she wants to make sure she's doing her part in protecting and keeping the people in her hometown safe. At this time, I'm going to read the oath. Would you all 3 raise your right hand? I, state your name, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear truth, faith, and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservations or purpose of evasion. Or purpose of evasion. And I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter. Congratulations. At this time, we have the pinning. So if the friends or family want to come and pin and take photographs.
Come on up, family, it's okay.
He was gonna say after, if we're gonna take a short break and there's cake, if everybody wants to join out there. We're gonna take a short break after.
No, we'll take it right now, right after they finish.
I feel like this.
This is great, they're all from Kalinga.
Suggested.
That's what's good.
Yeah. If I was doing it, I would prefer it.
I didn't know that was his dad right there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Good to know.
When you're done, I need the officers to stay up here so we take a photograph with council.
Good, how are you? Whoops.
Oh, you don't want a picture?
So you want to line up in the middle? Before I turn it over to the mayor, I just want to say that I think we're really blessed, and I know the council, the department heads, like to see what we have here with all our officers who are actually from Kalinga. And there's no reason why that the kids here that grow up here in the city of Kalinga cannot have hopes of working here someday for the city, either as a fireman, public works, or as a police officers. They don't have to look further when they go to college and school. They could come back and serve the community. And so thank you. Mayor?
Yeah, I agree. Thank you very much for coming and helping us here in Kalinga and staying home. I'm going to open it up for you guys if you'd like to say anything to the citizens here. So, Cody, you're first. I'm going to put you right there.
No pressure.
You can go up to the mic.
This has been a dream of mine for many years. For whatever reasons in the past, doors have been closing, but this door has been opened, and I believe it's for a reason. I love the community I work in. I coach football here. I coached youth. My kids aren't even in the programs yet. I'm just super excited to give back to my community and be able to do the job that I've always wanted to do. And thank you.
Thank you, Cody. And welcome aboard. Okay, Brandon? Or Brandy? Brady, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I just want to say thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. I look forward to working with the community and getting to know everybody that's in our community. And I wanted this for several years too, like Cody. I'm glad to be given the opportunity. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Cody.
Like everyone else has said, thank you all for giving all of us the opportunity to serve this community. I think for a long time, the community has needed representation like myself. So it was really important to be the change I want to see in this community. So I like to maintain that kind of positive relationship and role model in this community. So hopefully you continue to give us this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, and welcome aboard. Okay, now we're going to take about a 5 to 10 minute break, and they're going to go out and maybe take some more pictures and have some cake.
The
So-
cake was made by Cody's wife, Alexis, so thank you, Alexis, for making the cake.
Never mind.
Okay, we're going to restart this meeting. We're going to go to item number 5, introduction of Code Enforcement Officer Ibarra. I'm not even going to try to say your first name.
So before she introduces herself, I wanted to introduce Yanette to the community. She's our new code enforcement officer. I will proudly say that we stole her from another city, but she is a Kalinga native, and so we're happy to have her here. She hit the ground running. She's been doing great so far, and so I'll allow her to introduce herself.
Good evening, honorable council members and staff and community. Once again, my name is Yanette Ibarra, and it is a privilege and honor to serve to the city of Kalinga as your code enforcement officer. I am very excited to incorporate my experience into my position for the city and grow as a professional and as a community member. Like Marissa said, I am a resident here with the city of Kalinga. I've been a resident for quite some time, and I would love to give back to the community what was once given to me. And I am excited to be here with you guys. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Welcome aboard, and I heard that you just got back from your certification and stuff, so you are certified as a code enforcer, so we haven't had that for a while too, so that's really good. And welcome aboard, and so everybody's going to be real nice to you too. So. All right. If they're not nice to you, tell them to talk to Mayor Pro Tem Singleton. He'll take care of them. Okay. All right, thank you very much. Okay, next we'll go to item number 6, presentation of the new Public Works bucket truck.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, community members. It's always exciting to kind of bring and kind of show off some of the new equipment that the city is able to purchase to help our public works fleet. And tonight we wanted to just kind of maybe spend a few minutes if we wanted to go outside. We've got the bucket truck parked out in front here, just to kind of see what it does. And it's a brand new piece of equipment that we'll be able to use throughout town for trimming trees, fixing street lights once we obtain all the street lights, and a lot of various other hanging up banners, civic pride, being able to access a lot of areas until the 100-foot fire truck shows up, and then they'll outdo us on our grab. But no, we just wanted to show the equipment to you guys, and if you guys want to join us out there, I'll have Eric and Robert kind of show you guys the truck, and then we can get back to the meeting.
Okay, we'll go ahead and reconvene the meeting in about 5 to 10 minutes. So again, thank you. Okay, we're going to go ahead and reconvene this meeting. We'll go to item number 3, citizens' comments. This section of the agenda allows members of the public to address the city council on any item within the jurisdiction of the council member, of the council. Members of the public, when recognized by the mayor, should come forward to the lectern, identify themselves, and use the microphone. Comments are normally limited to 3 minutes. In accordance with state open meeting laws, no action will be taken by the city council tonight, and all items will be referred to staff for a follow-up report. Citizens' comments submitted in writing to the city clerk by 5 o'clock on the day of the city council meeting shall be distributed to the city council and included in the record. However, they will not be read. Is there anybody who would like to comment? Hilda?
I am Hilda Crawford, and I work at the Kalinga District Library, and I just want to give a little update. We are starting back with our programs. We have story hour every Wednesday from 10 to 11, so if you have any little ones that you can bring, our children's librarian is really good with the kids. We're going to be starting back with our Fun Eats program, which is like the third Thursday of the month, which I do, and we'll be making peep houses. And then on Cinco de Mayo, we're going to be playing Loteria. For those of you, it's Mexican bingo, from 3 to 4:30 there at the library. And Nathan should start up his computer programs for the kids. So just to give you an update that, library's up and running, starting back with programs. And for you, those of you that do not have a library card, you're lucky I didn't bring my library applications. I forgot them. And the only one that does is because I looked him up was Ron Ramsey. He's the only one. Oh, I'll look you up when I get back to work. And don't tell me you have one and then find out you don't. So all you need to do is come in and fill out an application, bring in a verification of address, and, our library has many things, databases, we have Libby, a lot of things that you can use your library cards for.
You guys don't have a library card? All 4 of you? I got one. Oh.
Yeah, come on. Let's see if you can produce that library card. Boom. Okay, you do. Good for you, Adam.
Way to go, Adam. How about you?
Good. Is it still working or is it expired? No. It's still, because if you haven't used it within a year, they throw you out. So I'll check that tomorrow. Manny, Adam, and Chief, I welcome you to get one, as well as you. So that's all I have to say, but thank you.
Thank you very much, Hilda. Is there anybody else? Okay.
You have Bonnie, Nathan, and Scott.
Come on up.
My name is Bonnie, and I just want to remind everyone that there's going to be an issue on closed session tonight. You probably already know, but I do want to remind you that there is an independent person that has no one's side, the city or my side. So please keep that in mind when you look over the items. Also, at the conclusion of the second visit of the utility worker, everything was resolved, and there has been no issue since. So I just want you to keep that in mind. Also, I'm very proud of our new officers. I feel so much safer to be in our community, and in fact, I've always felt safe, but now I feel even safer. Okay, and I noticed that there were some electric chargers for cars right outside the door here. I never saw them before, so is that available to be used for anybody?
They will be. We have to they just got finished being installed today, and so we have to download an app and set something up on the IT side, but they are for public use.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie. Nathan?
So I guess just a quick question on the charger thing. Is that, are they like right out front?
They're on the side of City Hall, so
Oh, okay.
where the Human Resources office is, they're alongside that wall.
Are they going to be for long-term use or short-term use, or are you going to let people just park the car there all day and charge?
They could park all day and charge,
Because
but
most of them that need a charge, it's going to take a while.
yeah, they download an app and they pay by the app.
Oh, they have to pay. Oh, there you go. Okay, perfect. So tonight I just want to comment on 2 items. Starting on the budget, looking at the paperwork we have, the budget could be rising this year to an additional 1.8 million, potentially taking the budget from 9.4 last year to 11.2 this year. Now, I don't know whether to be happy or scared about this. I'm happy because I know we're spending the money on the much-needed police and fire positions that are, they're well needed in some type of animal control too. If you guys agree to the budget, that accounts for $699,000 to fire, and I get these numbers right from the budget overview, with 322 being for overtime costs that would be recouped by strike teams. 47,000 for the captain positions, 292 for the fire truck lease. On the PD side, be increases for the new reserves, the salary increases that you guys already put forward, the 2 new officer positions at $254K, and another police tech for $78K, along with the CalPERS and the other increases. It also includes the groundkeeper positions at $180K. Wow, these things are getting expensive. Literally super expensive. I mean, 2 groundskeepers for $180K, 2 police officer positions for $254. The public should know that these things are expensive. They cost a lot of money. It's not that we don't need them, but when people say, where is the city spending their money at? This is a thing. It's expensive to have people. Labor's the number one thing. So on the flip side, our growing city also comes with liabilities, such as those increases in salaries, labor, benefits, insurance increases, things that you can't even control, workers' comp, things like that. You get more people, you're going to have more issues with workers' comp. You will. It's just a thing. You have more people. There's an actuated number for that. Sometimes I've seen workers' comp run, and those things run 10 to 20% per year. Boom. And that just is a fee. You can't even control it. For this reason, I'm nervous about the budget that has this large of increases. Really nervous about that because, this sitting council, it's going to pass on to the next and the next. And 2 councils from now, you're going to be looking at Measure J, maybe 2.5 expiring. And so you're going to want to, still think about that when you're moving forward. Hopefully, if it's needed, the public will say yes, it's something they want. But there is something that can be done. The city and the council can continue to go out and do whatever possible to bring in more businesses. Those businesses and houses and stuff like that, they bring in tax revenue. So continuing to do what you guys are doing, making sure that you hit up the recon in Vegas and the different things that you guys are moving forward with, those are great opportunities to bring businesses into town. And I think that, on Facebook, it does affect people. And in the citizens group, we do try and neutralize a lot of, I know people are all mad about this. They're like, hey, you're censoring us. And I'm like, hey, we've been told many times that businesses look at that and say they don't want to come here because everything's so negative. And so we've been trying to neutralize people from just using it as their personal soapbox to be negative to people as a help, to the council, and try and say, hey, we want to help as well. Without, our goal isn't to censor, but if your only goal is to get on there and say bad things, that you could do that on your own stuff. So I'm happy to see our city growing and investing in things like public safety and animal control, things that beautify the city. However, I do caution the council to be diligent and make a plan. I've asked twice or 3 times, hey, is there a 5 and a 10-year plan? I think that would really help you guys if you had a 5, 10-year plan on your spending, because that's where you're going to be looking at in 5 or 10 years on Measure J and things like that. So, it's a tough thing, and I hope you guys make good decisions, because your decisions that you make today will obviously affect future councils down from that. But You know, the best thing you can do is just get out there, try and invite more businesses to come to town, try and get more housing to come in. All of those houses bring in tax revenue. All of the businesses that people shop here stop the bleeding from going to remote places. And I think you guys are doing a good job on that. And so just keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you, Nathan. Scott?
Mayor, Council, Scott Netherton, Kalinga Chamber of Commerce. Been a while since I've been here in front of you. I've had a couple of meetings I had to be at, but I wanted to just give you an update on Derby. It's around the corner. We'll be here before we know it. We have a very good team working together on a lot of very diverse, a lot of different community members, business partners, and what have you that are really putting in the time and effort to make sure we bring Kalinga what they deserve. You probably see on Facebook, we're bringing back a lot of the oldies, the old bed races, the Hooskow. We're going to get back to, we can't have the old stagecoach robbery like we wanted, but we got something planned with the Hooskow, trike races. Our royalty court, which before consisted of Prince, Princess, King, Queen. We've also added a little Mr. and a little Miss, which is like 1 day to 4 years. Some parents wanted that. So we've got about 13 people vying for the court right now. We're expecting about 55 vendors. We did have the park surveyed. They finished it yesterday. You're going to see a completely different look to Derby this year. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel, but the biggest complaint we get is if you've been there in the last 10 years, you know where the corn dog is. You know, and people just walk in, get it, and leave. And Save Mart's a good example. I've thrown it out there several times. Once a year, they rearrange everything, and I hate it. But you'll walk in for a jar of peanut butter and walk out with 12 items trying to find that jar of peanut butter. And that's what we want. The longer we can keep people down there, keep them engaged. So if we're playing hide and seek, you're going to have a little harder time finding that corn dog. But we got a really good group, and we're looking forward to it. A lot of great entertainment again. Hopefully we can find these horned toads in a couple of weeks, and we'll be ready to go come Memorial Weekend. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Scott. Anybody else? Okay, not, excuse me, not seeing anything. We'll go to the consent calendar. We have 12 items on the consent calendar. Is there anybody would like to pull anything from the consent?
I'd like to pull 6.
6? Any other one? 4. 4? Any more? Is there anything that anybody from the audience like to pull? Number 2? Okay. Oh. Okay, we'll just go down, straight down the line. What would you like to know about number 2? Information only, illegal dumping.
Is this, I know, we have a lot of Fresno County roads, property. How does that work?
I'm sorry, I only heard Fresno County. I didn't
No,
hear
it's,
what you said.
so since we have like a lot of Fresno County roads that are, owned by Fresno County or like the creek, like, how would that work?
We can only place the signs within city limits.
Okay, so like the creek.
We could contact the county, but we couldn't physically go and place signs there.
Oh, okay, then that's fine. That's all I had for that.
And we can get a hold of the county and ask them to put signs out there, but, I mean, people will probably tear the signs down, but we can do that. Number 4, Crisscross Company. Adam?
Yes, they're here today, so I'd like them to come up and talk with us.
How are you doing tonight?
I am well, Mr. Mayor. How are you?
Doing fine, thank you.
So
Thanks for coming.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for having us in council. We appreciate being here. And I do want to say that I'm happy that we were here on a day when there were new officers being sworn in, because I know CRISCOM, that means a lot to us. We work a lot with law enforcement, so it's great to see that, especially during these times that we are actually hiring new officers, and I think that's great. I think that's
And they're all
commendable.
homegrown.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I'm a Valley girl myself, so I really do appreciate that when you come back and can give back to the city that you grew up in. So I'm here. My name is Renee Masakian with the Chriscom Company, and I also have Emily Engelsgard with us. She's with Chriscom as well. We do have a few other members that are not here today. 2 of our members are actually in Sacramento working on some of the stuff that I'm going to be reporting on. So Jason Segan is up there, and John Basmajin, who is also with Chriscom. Chuck Jaloyan, our CEO, almost never takes a vacation, but he actually took one. So he is out of the country right now, but anyways, he left it in my capable hands. So just quickly on the legislative side of what we are doing for you guys with our advocacy, our report that we submitted, as far as the legislation side goes, it was about 16 pages long. I'm not going to go over all of that. Everybody would be asleep and bored on the floor. So I just want to mention that we have about 7 different appropriation requests that we're working on for the budget. The new fire apparatus, which is $600,000 that we're requesting. There's water treatment plant, which is $1.2 million. There's the AMI metering, which is $1.5. There's the Derrick Water Reservoir Rehabilitation, $5.7. The wastewater treatment regulatory improvements, which is at $10 million. There is a diesel exhaust system for the fire department at $100,000, and also public safety technology infrastructure at $175,000. So we're almost at $20 million in what we are asking for. So right now, they're going over that. Currently, that's what they're reviewing. Last year, it did take quite some time to get that taken care of, but hopefully that the budget will pass. June 15th is about the date that we're looking at, and it should be enacted by July 1st. So we will definitely keep you up to date on all of that. And if anybody ever has any questions regarding that, Jason Segan, who, like I said, he's there in Sacramento now, anytime you guys want to contact him, he's always available. If any council, anybody wants to speak with them, if you have any questions. And then we also have some redistricting that's going on, and different people are running for office and stuff. So we'll definitely keep everybody up to date on that as well. So that's our legislative. I don't know if you have any questions on that. Like I said, I'm not quite the expert that Jason Segan is, but if you do have any questions, I can let him know and have him contact you.
Any questions, council? Okay, if you ever need any letters or anything from the council, let us know, and we'll get them to you right away. So
Absolutely, absolutely. And so next, on our economic development, we have been working really hard, making a lot of calls and emails and reaching out, and we are very excited that we're going to see you guys in Vegas at ICSC. We're happy to be co-hosting Happy Hour, so hopefully that will draw a lot of people into that. I did go on to ICSC's website to see exactly who has registered that's going to be there, who has booths as far as outreach on our end would go. And so I have a list of the targeted. There's about 40 different names of businesses, from Burlington Coat to Crunch Fitness, Firehouse, Jersey Mike's, Papa John's, Party City. There's a ton here. So those are all of the ones that we're going to go to and see, since we know that they're going to be there for sure, and get their information and give them information about Kalinga. And we've also been reaching out to a lot of other different companies, between auto and entertainment and grocery and restaurant and stores. We have close to 200 on our list, and I have a list of just who we've kind of contacted just since January. We have been in contact with them for, over a year now in various ones. And some of them have given us a no, and we don't like the no's, but we take them momentarily. We still keep them on our list because we still plan on bugging them. We still want them to hear from us because a no today doesn't necessarily mean a no tomorrow. So we still keep reaching out. And sometimes we don't hear back and we still keep on. There are some developers in town that we have established a relationship with that I know they're working on the old Kmart property. And one, I don't think I'm not sure if it's public information yet, but we've been working with Dutch Bros, and I think Dutch Bros might be coming to Kalinga, so that's pretty exciting. We're happy that that's going to happen. And so we're just hoping that some of these other calls and relationships that we're making with some of these people, that they're going to finally say, okay, because I know they kind of look at Kalinga on paper, and we're trying to explain to them, you can't just look at Kalinga on paper. There's a lot more that goes on between the traffic that goes through. There are some places that are interested, but just because COVID has kind of slowed people down, it's slowed businesses, people have kind of downsized, they are looking for a restaurant that's a second generation restaurant that, maybe somebody's gone out of business and the restaurant's for sale. Some of these businesses don't want to build from the ground up. And even though I know our city will give them, a lot of perks and benefits and coming in, there's still some other things that they're concerned with. Construction costs are up, things like that. So that's kind of been some of the requests. Are there any type of second generation restaurants, which we don't have available right now? And then there's a lot of businesses that are franchised. And so if we can get anybody who lives in the community that would like to start a business, we'd be happy to help and work with them and help put them in touch with the right people. And we have a lot of these franchise companies. We have also asked, please reach out to your list of franchisees, because oftentimes once you have one franchise, you get a second, you get a third. So we've asked them to reach out as well. So, to try to get some interest. So, and I know that Marissa has posted some stuff on Facebook for the community. So if anybody knows of anyone who wants to start a business like that, let us know, and we'd be happy, because, there's a ton of those businesses or franchises. So anyways, so that is the majority of what I have. So if there's any questions.
Any more questions? Any questions from the audience?
Population, they think it's too small. There's certain, they look at it and they think it's it's not quite condensed. It's a little bit more off of the 5, but we're trying to let them know that, there's a lot of things here. There's the, even with the prison, and there's people that work there, that there's a lot of commuters that go through, that even with, well-established signage off of 5, that, people could, if it's a good enough business. There are some, bigger businesses that we are trying to get some types of resorts, and Kalahari is one that I don't know if you guys are familiar with. It's not in California. We're trying to establish a relationship with them. They're a very big company, and they do, they need like 100 acres. And they do a convention center type, and they have water parks. It's similar to Great Wolf, but bigger, but they don't have anybody in California. I think they're in Texas and a couple other places. So we're trying to entice them to come here, and Kalinga is the perfect spot. It's in the middle of California. It's in the middle of the 5 between, the LA and San Francisco, Sacramento. So we're working on that. But that would be great, because if that came, that would have a lot of traffic. But it does seem to just kind of be part of the population, and just that it's a little too far off the 5. But we're working on changing everyone's frame of mind on that it's.
Because not only one thing is labor workers are starting to reside here.
Right.
And a lot of traveling agencies that work with these labor workers, they're staying here, and that's a big, kind of compound that they could look at.
Yeah,
you know.
we're letting them know about everything that's going on, and that the people that come through, and we're just somebody sitting in a corporate office somewhere, looking down and saying, this just doesn't look. And so we're telling them, no, this is different. Here's the opportunity. The city's great to work with, and they really want you to come. So we've really been working on that narrative.
I have a question. Do you have any, your list went really quick, but is there any clothing stores that are?
I do have clothing stores on there. We do, and I thought that the developers that are doing the Kmart business, I thought they were going to have a roster.
They are. It's just not public information yet of which stores are located there.
Okay. Yeah. So things are coming, and we're working on that. So we have that, and I could give you my business card, and if you have ideas and if there's something that you want, please let me know. We're happy to work with everyone. But I think we've got like a If you've heard of it, we've contacted them. So we're just, going back and forth and trying to get, a relationship with certain companies like that to see Kalinga in a different way.
Well, thank you very much. Is
Thank
there anybody
you.
else? I want to leave anybody out. Well, thank you very much for your information.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We're very happy to be here, and we are we've expressed we're happy to do these meetings quarterly, these reports quarterly. So we will be back in a couple months, and we will see whoever's going to ICSC next month. We will definitely see you guys there. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Have a great evening.
Okay, we'll go to item number 6. Introduce and waive the first reading of ordinance number 851, amending section 21203 of the Kalinga Municipal Code relating to city council salary. Who brought that up?
I did.
Okay.
Okay, my question is, it says in here the last time it was adjusted was in 2012. Is that 5% each year after, up until now? Is that why the number's quite a bit larger?
It could be, yeah.
Yeah, so
That's the maximum.
yeah, I did have a comment. So the maximum in there is 488.67 in the staff report, but that's the compounded amount. The maximum amount that you can have has to be non-compounded. So that's 450. So it's 500. It's 5% on the 300 times 10 years essentially. So it comes out to $150 on top of the 300.
Okay, next question. Is there any way I can waive it? Because I don't want the extra.
Yeah, there's two things that will happen. So just as a reminder to council, this doesn't kick in until there's a council election. At least one of the council seats has to be up for election, and then after that, that's when it kicks in. But then after that, anybody can waive their council salary at any time.
Okay.
But was your question if you could just raise the increased portion? That was how I understood it. So hypothetically, could someone stay at 300
Yes.
and then waive
You can
difference?
waive
Yeah, and then
Part-
waive any additional.
You could waive
Because
any part.
any oncoming council member, they can change it at any time, but I still prefer myself not to take anything extra.
You can,
It's a small amount, but it's still an added cost over time.
yes, you can waive as much as you want.
Okay.
Okay. Well, that's all then.
So
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Mayor. So on that one, our intent, or recommendation at least, because council had brought this back, is to put it at the 450 unless council tells us otherwise.
So it would be 450 at the next, for the next people who would be council?
It could be for you, but one of you has to go through an election.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay. So after the next election, it could go up to 450 then? Am I correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Okay, does that answer your questions then? Okay. Okay, council, what would you like to do on the consent calendar?
I'll make a motion to pass.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been motion and second to accept the consent calendar. Roll call, please.
Councilman Atkinson,
Aye.
Councilman Ramirez,
Aye.
Councilman Horn,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Singleton,
Aye.
Mayor Ramsey.
I also vote aye. Next, we'll go to number 6, ordinance presentation, discussion, and potential action items. Fiscal year 2022-23, requested budget discussion and direction. Jasmine.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Tonight, we have the full, complete picture of the budget. This does include the budgeted revenues along with the personnel expenses as well as the maintenance and operation expenses. So for the first time, you see the full, complete picture of what the budget would look like for next year. As far as the general fund is concerned, we are presenting you with a balanced budget. This budget includes about $20,000 going into the reserves. And then we could go through the staff report includes some of the changes that are highlighted. We did initially start out with a budget deficit. However, there are some efforts that were made to balance the budget, and those are included in the staff report in the first discussion portion. So we could go through and answer any questions, or if anyone wants to focus on a particular fund, we can do that as well.
Council, what would you like to do? Is there any questions on any particular part of the budget you'd like to hear?
Sure, I'll go first.
Okay.
How about the building official? We're hiring another one because we might have one retiring. Do we know when the current one is going to retire and when we are going to hire the one who is going to train with him?
Yes, sort of. So our current building official may be retiring sometime around December of this year. However, we can't only fund his position until December and then he decides to stay longer. So his position's budgeted for the entire fiscal year, but his plan is to retire around December-ish. The goal would be to hire a building inspector trainee, so not a building official, a building inspector trainee, who would start July 1st, and then that way would have 6 months of training with the current building official before he retires.
Okay. If the building official decides not to retire, then we're going to have 2 employees go in at the same time?
In my opinion, I don't think he would stay beyond next fiscal year. That would be a possibility. At that time, you could decide to eliminate the trainee position, but I don't see that happening. The reason that we're requesting this is because nearly every city that's looking for a building official right now cannot find one. Nobody wants to be a building official. They're very hard to find. And so what would happen, because it's a needed position, is if we lost the building official that we have and we don't have anyone to take his place, we would have to contract out. And the hourly rate to contract out means that if you wanted to keep that cost what it is now for the in-house person that we have, you'd only have a building official here about 12 hours a week instead of the 40 that we have now, which to me is a disservice to the community. So we can always do that if that's the direction of the council. But the thought was that we probably have someone in Public Works or the water plant or somewhere within the city, or even an external person who lives here who would be interested in being a building inspector trainee, taking classes, working under our current building official, and then becoming a building inspector at the time that he retires.
Oh, that'll save quite a bit of money switching unilateral than trying to hire a new employee. Now, is it going to be part-time or is it going to be full-time?
It would be full-time.
Yeah, just my only concern was that it's not a hard date that he says he's going to retire. I mean, I agree with doing this, but it just
sounded pretty hard. But like, I can't say, well, you told me you were retiring December 31st, and so I cut funding for your position January 1st.
Now, what I wanted to know on that same question is, if we do hire this guy that we're going to teach and everything, or girl, could somebody just outbid us when it comes up to give her a job? And you said it's really hard to find people, so would they just outbid us or on that, and then we would train them, do all this training, and then we would lose her or him?
that's always a possibility with any position that we have, but if it's someone who, hypothetically, say it's a maintenance worker in Public Works, it would be a promotional opportunity for them, and they're already working here and likely living here. And so that may be something that they're interested in moving into, and that person would likely stay here. Also, if it's someone who lives in the community, if they were offered a position to be a building official for the city of Lemoore or Hanford, they may not want to commute or they may not want to move. So it's a hard question to answer. That's always a possibility. That they may be here for their training and leave, but I mean, that's the same for every position that we
Yeah,
have.
that's true. Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
I got a lot of questions, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I already answered them all earlier.
Okay, so Jasmine, can you possibly tell us what our revenue is from Measure J, or what we anticipate it to be?
Is that for the current fiscal year or the upcoming year?
The current fiscal
Okay.
year.
Right now, for fiscal year 21-22, we budgeted $1,785,000 for Measure J. With just 6 months of revenue within that expense account, we're at 1.153. And so if you multiply that by twice for if revenues continue to be the same, it'll be about $2.3 million.
Jasmine, would you mind going over the stuff that we did add during our last meetings and stuff? Just, what we did add to the budget? And some of the stuff that she put on the budget. Do you understand what I'm talking about?
Do you want me to read this?
You can, or I can do it, yeah. Go for it.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So within the staff report, if you are able to have it up in front of you, from the budgets that were presented previously, there was a correction to SDI in one of the line items. We reallocated personnel costs for the assistant to the city manager, city clerk, that more align with the work that she does. So she's funded not so heavily on the general fund. We removed the training tower for the fire department and applied for a CIRA grant. We removed the professional services for the general plan update from the community development budget, and the next discussion item after this, we're asking to fund that with ARPA funds. We changed the animal control officer request from full-time to part-time. So instead of 40 hours a week, that position would be 19 hours a week. In the first draft of the budget, the 457 line items for all departments were based on if everyone participated, and we have very low participation. So we went in and adjusted those to actual numbers. We removed the health benefits for the HR analyst because she waived them again for this upcoming year. We made the adjustment for the police department recent hires from vacancies to actuals. So when we have a vacant position within the city, we budget as if they're going to be started at step C, which is the highest that they can start when they're hired. We assume they're going to have a family and they're going to choose the PPO health insurance plan, and we assume they're going to be a classic CalPERS member. So that's the most that a position can cost. So since those 3 police officer positions were filled, we were able to enter their actual costs versus budgeting them as a vacant position. We changed the hire date for the fire department administrative captain from July 1st, 2022 to October 1st, 2022. We changed the hire date for the 2 groundskeepers from July 1st to October 1st. The police department initially requested 4 police officer positions. We adjusted that to 2. And we reallocated the personnel costs for the code enforcement officer to include water conservation. And so those were the changes from the previous budgets that you had seen to the budget that's presented today. As Jasmine said, initially there was going to be a budget deficit, and so we made these changes to balance the budget. The bullet points after that section explain really what the cost differences are between the current fiscal year and the upcoming fiscal year. So we have an increase of $89,916 to the Community Development Department to account for a full-time building inspector trainee to train with our certified building official until his retirement. Once the certified building official retires, the building inspector will remain and the community development budget will decrease by the annual cost of the certified building official. Again, this budget shows that the building official will work for the entire fiscal year. It'll be a savings if he retires in December as planned, but we did budget for the full fiscal year just in case he stays a little longer. The way that HR personnel is allocated is based on the number of full-time positions within the city. So their general fund allocation this year, this upcoming fiscal year, would go from 51% to 57%. You have a $956,554 increase to the police department's budget. This increase is made up of the 5th sergeant position that council approved, the 2 corporal positions, the 4 new reserve police officer positions, an increase in salary and benefits, and then the 2 new police officer positions and 1 full-time police technician position. Also, due to the raises, their overtime cost will increase because their hourly rate's higher. And then they have about $46,500 additional operational costs. There's $44,656 to increase for animal control. $699,000 increase to the fire department. $47,000 of that would be for the administrative captain position, and the additional changes are increased projected overtime. However, that's also offset by the money that they bring in for the strike teams. And then the fire truck lease and other minor increases, including gasoline and diesel. $179,993 would be an increase to municipal grounds maintenance, which is primarily attributed to the 2 additional full-time groundskeepers. That presents you with a balanced budget with $20,042 going to reserves. If the direction was to move forward adopting the budget as presented, there would be a slight change just because of the council pay increases that were just recently approved, and so that $20,000 going to reserves may be $18,000, but it's just a minor change.
And could you also, do you have the list of the things that we brought up that some of the council wanted on the agenda, on the budget?
Oh, the things that we asked for. Oh, you're talking about for ARPA funds?
Well, it's part of it, isn't it? I know it goes to the ARPA funds, but it's still.
We didn't receive any direction from council on the previous budgets that were presented.
Okay, but didn't we go over a list?
Oh, we did a workshop for the
That's what I
ARPA
mean,
funds.
yeah.
That's the next agenda item.
Oh, that's the next agenda item, okay. So, okay, I see what you're saying. Okay, is there anything that anybody would like to add to the budget or take away from the budget?
No, I'm just curious. When does Measure J sunset?
I believe it's 2028. It went into effect April of 2018.
2028, so about 6 years. So in 6 years, we're going to take a huge $2 million budget hit, and every year we keep increasing the budget. Some things are needed, some things probably aren't. What are we going to do then, I guess is what I'm trying to figure out. 3 of us won't have to worry about it because Ray's never going to get elected again anyway because nobody likes him. Mayor's termed out, and I'll already be gone by then. So there'll be left with you 2 if you 2 are reelected. And you're going to have these huge
Well, in 6
hit.
years, I can come back.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Don't forget
That's
that.
right. You may
I'm
be
always
back.
right behind you.
So I guess it's 3, yeah. I mean, what's going to happen?
So I would say that initially there was information put out to the community about if Measure J didn't pass, this is what the city was going to cut. And the community passed it. So up to this point, we can show that everything that was listed as a priority for Measure J spending, with the exception of bringing back investigations at the police department, but we're in the process of working on that. Everything else has been done. So at the sunset, I would imagine, and I can't say this for sure, but I would imagine that the council at the time may put it back to the voters to keep it in place. And at that point, the community is going to need to vote on, you know, are we happy with this level of police and fire service, or do we want to cut that because we no longer want to pay this tax?
Okay. When we did promise them, we did give them pretty much everything we promised minus the investigations. We did say at the time we had 15 police officers, we would go to 17. Now we're currently at 20. Is that correct? 20, and then we're asking for 2 more. We're asking for 2 more, but originally we're asking for 4 more. What's the justification for getting asking for 2 more officers?
To have investigators. Right now, we still have to have 2 SROs from the 20. Which will be working on the contract with the state.
So the 2 that we're hiring now are going to be specifically so we can start investigations?
Correct.
Okay. And when do you think you'll have that up and running if this is passed?
It's going to be until we be able to get everybody on board right now with the 20 officers, and then find out which of the veteran seasoned officers that we could be able to promote to detectives.
Okay.
And just to add on to that, so if you approve those 2 police officers, they're not authorized until July 1st. And so if they likely won't start exactly on July 1st. So say maybe they start July 15th. And they have a 16-week FTO.
Correct. 4 months.
And so, you know, they won't even be fully on their own until October. And so then maybe January, is that realistic of when investigations could be up?
I like to have it sooner because we do have some experienced officers right now. And then if we do bring in lateral officers that have been detectives, that could start sooner.
So, Jazz, what was our deficit prior to the realigning? Prior to the changes that we made?
It was quite high. It was about, I want to say, was it about 900,000? Yeah.
I mean, because it's going to catch up to us one time or another. I mean, everything is going up. Labor, work, pay. I mean, fortunately, we had the ability to make these adjustments. But I mean, it's going to catch up to eventually. I mean, that's almost a mill.
I also it'll eventually catch up, but we also have a much larger general fund reserve than most cities. And the reason why that 900,000 was reduced was because a lot of the things we removed. And so, like, for example, the fire department training unit, we were able to apply for a grant for that. The general plan update overall is 500,000, so we were budgeting 100,000 this year, but on the next agenda item, we're asking to fund that under ARPA. So those costs that we removed aren't necessarily coming back to you next year. We were finding other funding sources for them.
Yeah, Measure J was used as a tool to help us get where we are right now. And I think we're proving that we're using Measure J right, and we're putting it in the right areas and stuff. Except for the detectives and stuff. And we're working on that. So we are doing what we said we would, and that's what people wanted, and that's why they voted for that. And I think that we're getting other stuff because we've changed the way we do work. We're getting more taxes in now too, and that's helped us a lot too. And like she said, our reserve is up now too. We don't want to go out and just spend like crazy, and I don't think we're doing that right now. But we still have to run a city, and this is a city that people want. They want a city that can protect them with fire and police and take them with their ambulances and stuff like that. So we're getting all the equipment now, and to run that equipment, we're going to need all this right now. And hopefully with the ChrisCon and all that, we can get more businesses in here, and we'll bring in more taxes and stuff. So we are doing what this council is. I mean, I gotta commend you guys. We're doing a good job, I think. And people have told us that we've got a council that's working together right now too. And so we are working together and we're trying to do the best for the city. And right now, we hired a city manager and she's telling us what we can afford and what we can't afford, and trying to help us out as much as she can. And we have a great finance person too. And they're helping us do all this. And so I think that instead of, instead of looking at the bottom of the cup, we're looking at the top of the cup. We're right in the middle. You know, we could go both ways on this. And hopefully the councils won't spend all their money. And we have set up tried to set up a limit on how much we have in reserves and stuff like that. So we are going to have to spend money to do what's right, you know, for the city and feel safe in this town. So
I think this year you're in a different situation that you've been in years past, because we would never recommend to adopt a budget with a deficit. But in years past, we've had to bring you a budget with a deficit and say, we've cut everything we can. Now you guys need to tell us what else you want us to cut. And this year we were able to do that first before we brought it to you. So it may seem like you don't have as much to go through because it's presented to you in a balanced way. You could still cut whatever you want to cut. But we were very fortunate this year in working on the budget that we were able to do that before bringing it to you. And so I know, like Mary asked at the last council meeting, well, wasn't there these series of workshops where we had to go through all this stuff? And there was, because they were very difficult years. But this year we've been fortunate enough that we came up with ways to balance it, which is in that first section of bullet points.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead. Nathan, I'm sorry.
So I've been watching these meetings and attending for quite some time, and I've rarely seen a time where the council, at this exact point, hasn't said, go back and look and see what else you can do to make the budget look better. It's always been like that. I've watched them. I've watched lots of council meetings. I agree with Mayor Ramsey. You need to give the staff the tools that they need to run. But I also understand that they were able to find a way to take out $900,000 worth of deficit. And so there may be other ways. And it may not be exactly cutting things. It may be applying for grants and things like that. And maybe if you give a tabled, hey, we'd like to just give it a little bit more time and see what else you guys can find that might be able to, you know, do things like that. I mean, that you're not going to lose anything with the time. One thing I'd like to point out is the reason your Measure J funds are so high is because of inflation. That's a guaranteed thing. Everyone's seeing this. But guess what? The other shoe is going to drop. Promise that. It's going to. Prices on things that you guys are going to want to buy are going to be anywhere from 15 to 30% higher. You guys are going to be paying for that. And we haven't seen that yet. We're going to see it on maybe the next budget cycle. You're probably going to see that. And so that's just my cautionary thing is like, hey, just if there's anything else they can do to try and bring in money from different sources rather than that, I would just say give them the time to try and find it. You know, the idea has always been, hey, send them back to find cuts. And then I know what Marissa says. Okay, exactly what is it you want to cut? Right? No. The idea should be, let's see if there's anything else creatively that they can do to get the budget and, you know, along with council coming up with different ideas as well. But I do definitely agree with the mayor on this, that they need to have the tools. And Marissa has been very good, even in the past when I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't even believe this. You guys are going to pass this budget and next year we're going to be broke. But that comes from a time where, unfortunately, we lost a bunch of money and nobody wanted to cut public safety, and we just kept going deeper and deeper and deeper into the hole because no one wants to cut public safety, and like no one wants to get back to that point. So that's just my idea is like, hey, you know, is there a way that maybe they can look for some other things that they could bring in extra money, move things around and whatnot? Not exactly cuts, but, you know, just maybe ask them, hey, bring this back again. Let's see what else we can do. And that gives you guys a little bit of time. I don't think the budget's due until June, July.
So the fiscal year ends June 30th, and we have one council meeting in June because of high school graduation. So it would ideally pass on or before the June council meeting.
Right, so you have a little bit of time. So that's just my suggestion. I appreciate it. Thank you.
I just want to say, you know, I've been with the city for 5 years. The first year that I took this job, that was fiscal year 2017. You guys passed a budget with a deficit spending of $798,000. And if it wasn't for the sale of Claremont, it wasn't for cannabis coming in, the very first budget that I did was in 2018. And that was when we had to make the largest cuts for the city. And that was not easy. Doing that budget was not an easy task. I remember sitting at the table with Marissa going through, you know, where can we cut? Where can we cut? When we passed Measure J, the estimated revenue was only $900,000. And you know why that was the case? Because there was no other comparable to where we are sitting. And so they budgeted based on our sales tax. Measure J has been coming ahead. One of the biggest reasons is car sales. So when we purchase a vehicle, the Measure J tax comes back to us. And so it's almost double our sales tax. And so, you know, over the course of the time that Measure J has been running, we've been watching it and we've been monitoring it, and a lot of it has to do with vehicle sales. Because no matter where you go, there's no dealership here, and so if we had a dealership, our sales tax would probably be higher. However, we go outside of the city to purchase vehicles, and so we collect that. That comes back to the city of Kalinga through Measure J. When I sit down and work on a budget is our best guess forward. And so if you look at this budget that's being presented to you, it's mostly personnel. And that's because we're adding public safety to this community. There's no way to reallocate public safety. It's general fund. It's 100% general fund. And so when you look for creative ideas for reallocation, there really isn't none, unless you want to cut those positions. And so, you know, when we came across the deficit of $900,000, that was not an easy task to present a balanced budget to you guys. I mean, you go through the list of things. It took thinking outside the box to find these and to make it come to a surplus, essentially a balanced budget.
The only thing that saved us was the ARPA funds, is that right? If we didn't have the ARPA funds right now, we'd be going into the deficit.
No, sir.
How? We had we're only having $20,000 in reserves, but we're going to spend $100,000 in the general plan update. That should have put us in $80,000 in deficit.
No, it's included. The general plan update is being funded by ARPA.
Right.
And so.
Right.
So
if we
what's that?
approve, yes.
Yeah.
But if
So
we didn't
it's
have
not-
ARPA, we would be in the deficit.
Yeah.
So ARPA saved us.
But then, I don't know, maybe Sean can answer this.
I can be
The
frankly
initial-
honest that if I wasn't going to put the city in deficit and
Yeah.
Marissa wasn't going to let it happen either, that we wouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
I put in $100,000 for this fiscal year, and the conversation during the budget developments prior to knowing wherever we all landed would have been an ongoing expense for the council over probably a 3-year period, because the general plan doesn't get done in one fiscal year. It typically takes 2, 3, sometimes 4 years to do, and it's an expensive endeavor. Marissa and Jasmine worked together and talked to me and said, hey, well, we can probably fund this through ARPA. Why don't we do the whole thing through ARPA? And that would eliminate the $100,000. But that discussion would have been had at a future, like this meeting, if we were facing a deficit and not being able to make those changes. It would have been something we would have just had to hold back on. But as the city is gaining revenue and seeing increased revenues, the city does need to go through a general plan update. The city does need to have a vision for moving forward, because we are in a transformational phase of the city and what we're doing. And the city needs to be able to have its goals and vision moving forward, and not relying on a general plan update that was done back in 2006 or started in 2006 at the height of the biggest housing boom we've ever seen, which never came to fruition really here in Kalinga. And so what we currently have is a general plan that really showed 50,000 people in Kalinga in the next 3 years. Well, I don't think we're going to get there. So we need to have more reasonable expectations in terms of what we're going to look like as a community and how we're going to develop. So it's important, and I think that through opera funds it's important, but it wasn't enough to break the budget at this point.
One thing that I also wanted to mention is we haven't finalized our health insurance renewal yet for next fiscal year. So the numbers that you see for the health insurance renewal is worst case scenario. So our costs could be less, they just won't be more. And then the other thing is with our unfunded liability with CalPERS, you hear that a lot with cities that have been with CalPERS for a long period of time. And they're having to finance it and pay interest on it and pay year after year. And we, within our budget, each fiscal year pay our balance in full. So we don't carry a balance with them. It's paid off every fiscal year.
But I'm looking at the ARPA funds and seeing the animal shelter rehabilitation for $219,000. If we didn't have the ARPA funds, that'd be deficit spending, right? Or we may not even have it.
Right. You likely wouldn't have it.
Right. And the general plan update, $500,000. The message, the fire department system, Chamber of Commerce stipend. I mean, it seems like next year is not going to be good, in my opinion. That's how it looks. I know you're going to say something else.
No,
but when I look at the math, there's no other way around it.
Well, everything that you see on the ARPA list is sort of a wish list. So had ARPA funds not been available, those things wouldn't be a part of the budget. And so what you're seeing in the budget is absolutely what needs to happen in the next fiscal year. So what you see on ARPA, just like with grant funds, there are things that we want and there's things that we need. And so what you see in the budget is what we need, and what you see on the ARPA list is what we want.
I would
say that we need an animal shelter. But everything else is probably a want. I also have a concern that when you look over the last 2 years, we see that the police department budget has increased by 48.6%. We cannot keep doing that. This is all going to come back to us eventually. It's going to. There's no way around it. So, I don't know if anybody else has anything to say, but that's what I got to say.
But the city, we anticipate the city growing too. We're not going to be in this same scenario every year, hopefully.
Well, we're anticipating can lead you down a bad road.
It can go both ways.
I'd rather have it first and then spend it than anticipate it's coming to come in and not get it. I mean, look what's going on with the economy right now. I mean, what's going to happen when interest rate rises even more than what they already are? Are people really going to be able to sell their houses anymore? Our housing price is going to go way down and we're going to lose revenue and property taxes. We really don't know what's going to happen. The $20,000 isn't good enough for me to put in reserves. I'd like to see if we could do something about that. Some of the ideas I had, these are just ideas I had, is maybe we have 4 police reserves we're talking about. How about if we do 2 in July and 2 in January? I think that would save us $51,000 if I'm not mistaken.
So I didn't anticipate all 4 being hired by July 1st, so I anticipated 2 July 1st, 2 October 1st. So we could push it to January 1st. It just wouldn't have as big of a savings because I already had 2 starting October 1st.
We're 2 officers. We've already given the people what we promised them, and we've gone above and beyond what we promised them, from 15 officers to 20 officers. So what about 1 in July and 1 in January? That'll save, if my math is right, $63,601.
Now, that's in the ARPA funds, right? Or
No, that's in the
That's in the
budget.
budget, okay. Myself, we've got a budget, we've got a reserve of 20,000. I say go with it myself. Because everybody's working on it, and I think we need it at the time, and we told the people we would try to do public safety. We're doing public safety, and we're actually doing more than we said we would do, and I think that's what people expect. And I think we can keep going like this if we work together.
I'm not going to promise you that your time on council, you'll never have to do layoffs. There may come a time where you do. We've had to do it before, and it's the worst time.
That's the worst time.
But what's difficult is the budget that you see is based on the best estimate for what we're going to bring in for revenue and what we're going to spend. And in all the time that Jasmine's been our finance director, we've done very well. She ran the final quarter report, the third quarter report of expenses, and we should have 25% remaining in the general fund, and we have 24.66. And I would dare anyone to find any other city that's numbers are that accurate. The reason that it's not exactly 25% is because we had the one-time expense of purchasing the animal shelter and the splash pad. If we didn't have that, we'd be above the 25%. And so I'm comfortable with the numbers we have for next fiscal year. Whether you want to make changes or whether you want to adopt it as is, you're not adopting tonight. It would come back to you for adoption. But regardless of what you want to do, those numbers that are there as far as revenue projections we're comfortable with, but that doesn't mean that there's not going to be something that happens the following fiscal year where revenue decreases and you have to cut expenses. We would hope that's not the case, but that's always a possibility. When COVID hit, none of us predicted that that was going to happen. And things like that can happen. It can really change the financial picture of the city.
Jasmine, can you tell us what the reserves were at the beginning of this fiscal year and what they are now?
I don't have the number as far as what actually. So at the beginning of the fiscal year, we had this is fiscal year, at the beginning of fiscal year 2021, we had a $4.4 million reserve balance. And at the, currently, as it sits right now, we have 4.7 million.
We're at a little over 5 at one point, weren't we?
No. It's about 4.7 right now, yeah.
I would.
At the 2021 actual said we were at 4.49, and then the next year it said 434,000. Is that it?
I think, let me see.
Could have sworn we're at 5 million at one point. Maybe
So one thing I'll say while Jasmine's looking for that is it is likely that we're going to have to come back to you and ask that you adjust our reserve policy, because we asked for a higher reserve policy because of the unexpectancies with COVID. But it's not recommended to carry a reserve as high as what we have. And so we've had very successful audits in the past. We would like to keep that. And I think the average is between 25 and 30%, right? For
Yeah,
reserve,
so
and what is our current percentage?
The GFOA, which is the governing federal agency that kind of oversees accounting, government accounting, they recommend for a general fund a minimum of at least 2 months. That's about 17%, but general practice within the field, it's about 25 to 30% reserves.
And what's our percentage right now?
Ooh, I can tell you.
I think the reserve policy requested 50%, correct?
Yeah, so, yes, the original policy was set for 50% or 6 months of reserve. And so with a balance in the reserves of 4.7 million, that's about 42%.
And GOA is
42% of the current $9.4 million budget, but not
It's-
the $11.2 million
So I-
proposed budget, right?
Yeah, so I budgeted, I did it for the proposed, but for the $9.4 million budget, it's 50%.
50%.
I'm just gonna check my math,
Yeah,
yes.
I think,
Yes.
yeah.
You know, I have all the faith in the world in you three and how you're balancing, doing this crazy balancing act. And I see what we have in the reserve, and I see what where we're at. I mean, I just don't see going against what you've proposed, what you've put your time and effort and take away adding to make it fit. Because I really would not want to see a 900K in a negative trying to pass that budget. I mean, so yeah, I mean, there are some places where possibly could be cut, but I think you three have done an excellent job in trying to comb through and trying to get it to where it is a presentable and maybe a passable budget. I mean, it's what you guys do. I mean, yeah.
And, you know, over the time, as we move through time, as we grow as a city, the cost of running the city also grows. And so you've seen that through growth. I know there's new positions being added, but, you know, along with that, there's fixed costs that are also increasing as well.
And some of the positions that we added, I don't think we really took in consideration how it would affect the budget, but we're just trying to be comparable to other cities so that we can kind of maintain what we have here and not let individuals veer off. So, I mean, for me, I didn't kind of put that into the equation of this, but looking at what we approved, it comes back as it's a pretty big number. But I mean, I just feel like we had to do that. We had no choice than to create these other positions and these pay increases. So I mean, you know, somebody's got to roll with it.
I think we build a structure and a platform. You guys have mentioned that you guys been in the worst place. You are right. Our city is growing. Perfect example with Ms. Bonnie. She feels safer. We want to keep it like that. And of course, yeah, we've got to be safe on it. I'm happy that we're finally been able to have the structure with PD and fire, where we're actually not having citizens being disappointed on, you know, depending on some other resource like ambulances from some other places and lasting more than 30 minutes to get where they can. Just like Marissa said, it's a who knows, and I know it's stressful for you guys, and I commend you guys that you guys are working the most corners there is to try to get us the best budget and the best numbers that you guys can. I mean, we're hoping that it gets better, but that's what a budget is, right? You know, hopefully our town starts growing better, revenue starts coming in, you know, we just pull down, you know, tax on our cannabis, you know, hopefully that gets better and comes up. We get more money, but we do have a group that we could go after some grants. And that's where we put the money in, and we gotta go after those grants, and hopefully we get more money in. And, you know, I'm just thankful that you guys are doing whatever you guys can to show those numbers.
Thank you. Mr. Horn, would you like to say anything?
Excuse my language on this one, but are we gonna be okay with writing checks that our ass might not be able to cash?
What do you mean?
If everything's up as high as it is right now and that general number starts to drop, then what?
Within the fiscal year that's budgeted, that's why we have the reserve account. And in all honesty, like I had mentioned, our reserve account is too high, and so we have to start spending that down. It's a liability for us to carry that high of a reserve.
We can actually use some of it to make adjustment then.
Yes, or council can choose at that time to make cuts to expenses.
Okay, council, what would you like to do? Would you like to go with the budget? All we need is direction right now. We'll bring it back at the next session if
We do need direction, so I know that Councilman Atkinson had some suggestions for the shifting of start dates for positions, so I don't know if you want to provide that direction and see if there's consensus for that, or if there's any other direction that you'd like to provide.
What would be the dates again?
So the next city council meeting is May 5th.
No, I mean for the positions.
Oh, so I believe it was one police officer starting July 1st, one starting January 1st, and then of the 4 police reserves, 2 starting July 1st, and then the 2 that I had budgeted for October 1st to start January 1st.
Now, would that affect any personnel right now that we have?
No, they're currently vacant.
What do you guys think about that?
I'm trying to see how much I would save.
Do you know how much that would save offhand?
51 is 30, about 80 something thousand is my guess. Take the 80. About 100,000.
How much is your capital outlay fund sitting at?
Just a second.
So for the police officer, the full-time, starting January 1st, that would be a savings of about $63,500. And then the reserve police officers. It's about another 12,000.
About 75,000 then?
Yeah, 75,500.
500, okay. Okay.
And it may be that by May 5th, when we bring it back, we also have our actual health insurance renewal numbers. Like I said, what's budgeted is worst case scenario.
Okay, what's your direction, guys? Would you like to go with those recommendations and the budget then?
I would like to go with the motion. I mean, yeah, just, all you're doing is pushing them out. I mean, we're not gonna get rid of a position, just gonna push it out till January.
Yeah.
I mean,
Kind of get a safe area kind of little thing.
Okay, you have three people right now, so making their statement, but 4? 5, we got 5. Okay. Okay, go ahead and bring this back then, and with the changes. Okay, next we'll go to item number 2, discussion, direction, and potential action items regarding the coronavirus, Corona State and Local Physical Recovery Funds, also referred as American Rescue Plan, ARPA funds.
Thank you. So this item is here to get direction from the council on how you'd like to allocate these funds. We did have a public workshop previously. From that public workshop, we had a list of 19 items. At that time, we didn't have cost estimates. It was just gathering ideas. So the first was to repair or relocate the water transmission line. That's a cost of about $40 million. Expand the sewer plant land ownership. That would vary depending on how much property we expanded on. The storm drain relief is about $2.3 million. There was a suggestion to hold funds for future drought relief, so we couldn't really put a price on that. The recycled water pipe infrastructure is about $30 million. Broadband infrastructure expansion is about $5 million. The Tthm facility at the water plant is $1.2 million. The filter beds 1, 2, and 4 at the water plant are $1.1 million. The moss screen repair replacement at the water plant is $1.2 million. The digital traffic trailer message signs for city entrances are $60,000 for 2. The diesel exhaust system at the fire department is about $100,000. To update the alert system at the fire department is about $100,000. The Chamber of Commerce grant is $15,000. The COVID-related gas and water utility relief varies, but we already received a grant for water relief provided through state funding, and we're going to be getting funding for wastewater relief as well. The next item was water conservation investment. We noted that it would vary depending on what water conservation was done, but we anticipate $1.75 million for turf replacement and a neutral output discharge elimination and the smart water meters. Someone had suggested water wells at the college, schools, and parks. That would vary. Community enrichment programs, that would vary, but we do have the splash pad listed there with some information to follow in the next section. City benches installed throughout the city, they're about $2,500 per bench. And a civic center, which we didn't put a cost, but we plan to incorporate once the animal shelter relocates. After that meeting, I received an email from Councilman Atkinson suggesting a few more ideas. One was solar panels for various buildings, BMX track, low-flow shower heads and sprinklers, and an animal shelter. Those costs are all there also. And since that time, council has directed staff to explore the following, which may also be allowable uses of funds. A dog park. And then lastly, we have a looming general fund expense that will need to be done soon or in the next couple of years, which is the general plan update of about $500,000. And so generally we would recommend using ARPA funds for general fund expenses, and we could fund the general plan update with ARPA funds. So those funds must be obligated by December 31st of 2024 and expended by December 31st of 2026. I have 9 recommendations for you of how staff is recommending you use the ARPA funds, but you can use them for anything you like that's an allowable expense. So item number 1 would be the new animal shelter rehabilitation. The engineer's quote is $219,000. The splash pad, which is $969,580 from ARPA. The total cost is more than that, but we do have some park impact fees we can apply first so that the full amount doesn't hit the ARPA funds. Item number 3 is the TTHM project at the water plant. We did request state and federal funding for this, but if it's not approved, then we'd like to fund it through ARPA. The general plan update, which is $500,000. 2 portable electronic message board signs at $60,000. The fire department alert system at $100,000. We're recommending the annual Chamber of Commerce stipend of $15,000 be paid through ARPA funds from fiscal year 2022 through 2027. So that totals $90,000. And then installation of 10 benches throughout the city. They're $2,500 each, so that'd be $25,000. And then the dog park rehabilitation at the sports complex, approving pending CHRPD approval. They're discussing that at their board meeting tonight. So total, what you have available is just over 3.2 million. If you went with staff's recommendation of those 9 items, that would take care of all of the ARPA funds. But again, there's a list up at the top of what the community had suggested, some of those in the staff recommendations and some of them not, just because their cost is too high that we wouldn't be able to do it, or there's other funding available. So this is just to get direction from council and see what you guys would like to do with allocating the ARPA funds. The next report is due April 30th. So we'd like to at least have some direction to know what we're going to spend some of the funds on. You don't have to allocate it all, but it would be nice to be able to get that first report completed.
Have we gotten any word on any of the grants or possible grants for the repair, relocate transmission lines and also the recycled water line infrastructure? Because that's such a high cost, and I know right now the cost of steel, of any type of metal, has gone up 3 times its original amount.
Right.
So I know that number is probably going to get higher.
Right now, we don't have any approved funding for the city of Kalinga for that.
Okay. Are the grant writers working on it?
They are searching for grants that we could qualify for.
And if we didn't spend all the ARPA funds, do they take it away from us? Or can we hold it for other future projects?
No, so you have to have it, there's a date that you have to have it allocated by. So it has to be obligated by December 31st, 2024, and you have to expend it by December 31st, 2026, or I believe you forfeit it.
Okay.
I think there's definitely things we need on here. We definitely need an animal shelter, a splash pad if it's within reason, like Councilman Horn was saying. Prices have gone up so dramatically recently. It'd be interesting to see what the final cost of this is going to be. Was the benches your idea?
Yes.
Okay, we can get rid of that then. Just kidding. Definitely the dog park, if we can get their approval. I don't know what in here I would actually take out.
Now, if we get the state to approve the TTHM, the water plant funds, we could just use that money for something else up on top?
Correct.
So Chriscom, they were here earlier. That was one of their things they were asking for in the budget, wasn't it?
Both state and, we submitted it for both state and federal.
Okay.
So is there anything up on the top that's not on the bottom list that you guys would like, and then we could put that as an alternate if something else doesn't, if we get more money for other stuff?
And there's not a rush if you guys want to take time to digest this. The only thing is I would like, if possible, if you guys are all in support of the animal shelter and the splash pad, please don't hold that up. If you know that you support that, then approve those. Sean really will tell you that he needs the TTHM thing. That's not as exciting for me as the animal shelter or the splash pad, but I know it's needed. And so you don't have to approve it. I mean, the money has to be obligated by December 31st, 2024 and expended by 2026. But this is our recommendation of how to spend it. It all benefits the community.
I got a question about the splash pad. What was the cost when you originally approved it versus what it's going to be once they finally start it?
Well, the scope has changed a little bit in terms of what it's going to be. I think it was probably over about 200 and something thousand, but the scope's changed in terms of creating more of a park space. Not going to be in Frame Park. It'll be on a separate parcel. It'll also have a gazebo. There's additional features that are involved, and it's a recycled water facility, so that cost is substantially more expensive. And it requires bathrooms and a shower when you make it a recycled water facility because it's treated like a public pool at that point. So the California Department, I mean, the Fresno County Health Department actually controls some of the regulations when it comes to recycled facilities. But considering the water situation and how much water splash pads use, they use a very little amount of water when the water is recycled.
Now, are we able to get with the rec department and find out what their cost was of the new bathrooms that they just had installed?
We have
along with
that
the shower?
number is based on pretty solid engineer. We have a full engineer's cost estimate and conceptual plan for the splash pad. And so we have a very solid number, and our engineer, after looking at, when you see bid awards for other projects, they've been very close in terms of their numbers because they look at previous bids that have been released. And when we're talking about splash pad, we're talking directly with vendors who we purchase from, who are going to sell the product direct to us. We have exact quotes from them what the cost of the material would be.
And Sean can tell you I'm very cheap. So when we got the engineer's report, I took it to him and said, circle everything on here that Public Works can do that we don't have to pay someone else to do. So the number in there is hopefully worst case scenario. And I would rather come back to you later and say, hey, we have an extra $200,000 that we didn't use at the splash pad that you can allocate than me saying I underestimated and now I need $200,000 from the general fund to finish the splash pad.
And Marissa and I have been talking that there is park impact fee money that's currently available, and with pending those 2 apartment projects, there are impact fees that we paid out through those. But we don't like to assume that anything is going to happen, so we didn't allocate or account for that. But because ARPA can be on almost like a reimbursable basis to the city, same thing with the TTHM project. That project goes out to bid in about a week. However, we've talked that we're going to wait till we find out about the state and federal budget before we actually draw on any money, if the council so chooses to fund that project. So if we happen to get it allocated in the state and federal budget, then that project would most likely be funded through the state or feds, or at least the remainder of the project. But in terms of the in terms of these, they can be reimbursable through ARPA. So that would allow us to say, hey, we've got some extra impact fee money that came in due to some development projects. Then we can offset how much money we actually have to draw from ARPA on that. So maybe savings.
And Sean, can you briefly tell the community what the TTHM project means?
It's the total trihalmethanes. It's basically part of the treatment process that we have notices from the state on in terms of the initial treatment of the water. And hasn't affected water quality. We are in full compliance, but we need a permanent facility for this type of operation. And it's over the years, this has been a project that's been in the works probably for the past 5 years, I think. And the cost has increased. It recently increased by $200,000 just in the last 6 months.
And this is without expanding the property. They're able to use the existing property
It's at the
to
existing
locate it?
it's at the existing water treatment plant, yes.
Okay.
And do you know if we have a good chance of getting any of the funds from the state or federal for that?
I have no idea.
I would say no, only because we ask for things every year and we never get it. So I would say the chances are slim, but we're hopeful. And when you open it up to the public, sorry, Bonnie raised her hand that she has a question.
Definitely based on prior years and our current
Right.
representatives.
But if we did spend that ARPA funds, could we still apply for the state and federal? And then
It's already been
reimburse
submitted.
her?
I mean, really, it's just a budget allocation. I think it works different. This process works different than just like a grant. So if it's funding, I guess it just comes to the city. Even if we've already started the project, I imagine they'll just reimburse us for expenses related to the project.
So we could possibly do it that way then, too.
Yeah, so it's the same way we're treating it even with ARPA funds, that we're moving
Right.
forward with the projects. We have to. But we'll just reimburse ourselves through ARPA funds. If in fact we don't receive state funds, then we'll use ARPA funds to reimburse ourselves.
Okay. Okay, Bonnie, did you have a? Could you come up to the mic? I'm sorry. We try to get everything on the mic.
I just had a question about the amount of water that is needed for this. And has there been a safety of, you know, how safe is it for children, and how much water usage? Is that a, is that
The water
an issue?
usage for,
The splash pad? What
Oh.
amount of water is needed?
I don't remember the amount, but it's recycled water.
Okay.
So it's recirculated through the system. So it's not, initially when we were going to do the splash pad at Frame Park, it was not going to be recycled water. This one will be. So it is minimal water usage. And the idea, hopefully, is that if we have one central place that has recycled water where everyone can gather, then they're not using as much water at their own house, renting water slides or letting the kids run through the sprinklers or anything like that, because they have a central location to do that, and we have recycled water.
Okay, and about the safety of the water, the bacteria of the water, that when,
It all has to be checked all the time.
yeah, all of that. Okay, so
Yeah.
that's just a concern. And the safety issue of children, you know, if they can hurt themselves if it's
Yeah,
not-
so kids can hurt themselves all the time. I have a 7-year-old who knocked his own tooth out with his own knee yesterday evening somehow. I still can't figure out how that happened. But they can always get hurt. But it is going to be a non-slippery ground where the water is. It will be all fenced in with a gate, so they can't run out into the street. There's, the way it's designed, there's half block walls where parents can sit and watch them when they're in the splash pad area. So we can't promise no one will never get hurt, but we're taking every step that we can to make sure it's as safe as possible.
And is there going to be a requirement the parents be there to observe and to make sure that they're safe? Because a lot of times, if you have children in water, I mean, they can hurt themselves, and if they're not observed. So these are all issues that I think are a factor.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
good issues too, so.
I think there will be a sign with like rules for the splash pad, but there's not physically going to be a city employee there making sure that, you know, if you're under age 10, your mom's here with you. We won't be able to do that, but we will have rules posted, and it's going to have a gate with a lock, and so it's only going to be open during set hours and closed in the evenings.
And hopefully we can get some cameras maybe there too.
And we'll be safe. Adam will be on duty. He's got us covered.
Okay. Nathan, you got a question?
So, out of all these items up here, splash pad, this has been something on my radar for a long, long time. And the cost was really down low, and, you know, maybe we should have moved on it back then, but, you know, the community wants something. They see all this money in front of them, and they're like, what do we get? I mean, obviously, they get to use all the services, you know, that come with it, but we really need something here that the citizens can say, hey, council created this. You know, so I'm a huge fan of that. I know it's going to be expensive, but we have a lot of people, especially that live in District 3, District 2, that they can't afford a pool. I just looked online yesterday at Google Maps. Most of the pools are in District 5. It's not even close. And then District 1 has a whole ton of pools too. District 3 has a few, but for the most part, few and far between in areas where people that aren't going to be able to afford to get the same opportunity. In the Park and Rec, I don't understand what the dealio is with no pool ever. It seems like every year they do this thing, we're going to have a pool, and then nope, sorry. And so that's disconcerting. They figure out how to do it in Huron, but they don't figure out how to do it in Kalinga. Right, and so they break it down on lifeguards, and that's what they say. But I mean, I look at the scenario like, hey, people apply to be lifeguards, and they're told all of a sudden, hey, we don't have enough. I don't know what it is, but it's a problem. And so I'm just saying, like, this could be a nice little solution. And then the other thing, I had a question. What is the portable message signs for? What do those do?
So they do a number of things. They're on trailers, and they're the electronic message board signs that we had out. They're like Caltrans signs that we had out on the entrances of town last time about COVID. We also can put messages about road closures. So we can do a lot of things with them, but every time that we use them now, we have to rent them, and they're very expensive. So it's almost cheaper to buy them than it is to rent them.
You can slow down people with them too.
So I'd say that's actually a great idea as well. And in fact, pretty much all of the ideas up there are really good. The animal shelter, it's not even close. We need an animal shelter. It's a number like 2 pulled thing. Most people are interested in public safety and then animal shelter, and it's right there. And so I know it's an expensive cost, and I know everything along with it is expensive, but that would be a great thing. And then I'm just gonna say, we're sending what, $48,000 a year on CRISCOM? They haven't done anything, I don't think. They've made phone calls. I would say spending that $15K each year on the chamber, it's only $15K, it's not $48K. And the chamber's local, and they do get down to business, and we bring people in. I would say, please do that. That is a minimal expense compared to what other cities give chambers. Some of them, I believe Hanford used to give $40,000 before Main Street came in, and so now they give it to Main Street, and they give a sizable portion to them. But the Chamber of Commerce does a lot of work for the city of Kalinga that's not in the forefront. They're like the welcome center, and I'll have to say that Scott has been doing an amazing job at that, and we have a great board, and we're really trying to get things stable and to keep things moving. But a nice idea, and it used to be that the city would rent them a building for, dollars. They didn't have to pay rent or anything like that. And then I believe they gave them a little bit of a stipend as well. But I think that would also be a great idea. And then the dog park. In fact, you know what? To be honest with you, I know you guys don't. I just been saying, hey, you know what? We don't want to go broke, but all that stuff up there is well needed for the community. So just my spiel.
You're kind of like us. You're stuck in the position. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, everybody, for giving your ideals. Okay, council, it's up to us. What would you like to do?
I'll make a motion to move forward with everything that staff recommended. Hope for the best with the $1.2 million, but prepare for the worst because our reps
Is
won't
there a
do anything
second?
first.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been motioned and seconded to accept staff's recommendations. Roll call, please.
Councilman Atkinson,
Aye.
Councilman Ramirez,
Aye.
Councilman Horn,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Singleton,
Aye.
Mayor Ramsey.
I also vote aye. Next, we'll go to discussion, direction, and potential action items related to the approval of a lawn garden rebate pilot program. Larry?
I'm out of my cave. Okay, so we put together a relatively rough outline for a turf replacement program, or lawn to garden, or whatever the name will be, right? So the initial idea was to have something that's going to help people reduce water use in their front or backyards. From what I've seen, these programs can be up to like 50% water reduction outside. That will vary. Some homes have very large systems, some are very small, so it will vary. But it will be nice to see what that is when it's all done and through. So just to start, you have to replace a living surface or like a water surface. If someone wants to replace their swimming pool, that'd be really cool. But it must be something that is like alive. If it's just like all bare dirt, that's not going to help anybody. This is for single-family residential. These homes will also have a smart water meter installed, and the applicant will have to sign up for the Eye on Water application so they can watch their water use and that kind of thing, and actually be engaged with that. The applicants will be reimbursed after the final inspection, and they will pay like everything up front. The reason behind this is that you step into a lot of laws where you have to pay prevailing wage and all that stuff. It's a lot better if you just do like a rebate program. Plus, if you may find yourself in a situation where someone does all this, or you pay them all this money and then they don't actually do the work, and then you have a fight on your hands. On Monday, probably before the end of day, there will be an application online that is just going to serve as a notification of interest. There'll be some fields that you have to fill out, and this is going to serve as a time stampable, first come first serve. This will be a limited program to 10 people. So the first 10 that fill up, those will be the ones that will be accepted. And then as people get thrown out because, for whatever reason, then we'll just, move down the order, right? That is also to say that if you have already expressed interest, then come Monday, you should probably reapply. I will send you an email. Let's see. It's also going to require a timer, a micro drip irrigation system that is pressure regulated. The pressure regulator is just there to serve the smaller irrigation system. If you do not use one, you will blow up your system. They're usually rated for about 20 pounds, and 60 pounds will not serve it well. As far as plants go, it's made to be very open, but still where you have to use something that's reasonable for where we live. It has to be drought tolerant. It has to be within the heat zone 7, 8, 9, through 12, and the hardiness zone, which I don't really think applies to us very much, but within those same parameters. So there's a lot of stuff online that you can find to research this. The list is massive. There's some really beautiful plants, so I don't think that will be an issue. As far as like how many plants that you'll be asked to have at a bare minimum, I think 50% is a good place to start. But it's also important to note that this is the full size of it. So when you plant something that's small, we're not saying that you have to have 50% of its sapling age or whatever it will be. If you find the specs of the full mature size, that's what that number will be based on. And then we move on to Hardscape, Rock, and Mulch. That's going to be less than or equal to 50%. So, no more than 50%. You don't want to see, yards with just rock, right? It doesn't look super nice. And no water features, and the surfaces must be permeable. I believe that we have city ordinances or regulations where you can't have more than 50% of your, front yard be, non-permeable surfaces anyway. Moving on to the rebate amounts. So I looked at Fresno, and this is basically what this is based on. And they have a whole list of things, a whole full list of things, and I straight up stole it. So, $1 per square foot for living material, replaced. It's not based on the whole square footage of your yard, just what you're actually, replacing. And that's up to $1,500. And that could be for both your front and back, right? A microdrip irrigation retrofit, which would be your valve, your pressure reduction, and the actual pipeline system. It's about $50 for the valve and the pressure reducer, and then 50 cents per foot for the irrigation system itself. I have listed here as a smart irrigation controller, but that may change. By smart, I mean it can be, if you can get it on your Wi-Fi, you can have it hooked up to where it can, kind of set itself, based on, how hot or not that it is outside. They're really great, but it may not be feasible for everyone, so it may not be a hard set thing. as far as the process, how it will actually go, there's the initial application, and that is the one that will be ready on Monday. It's just a notification of the interest of the applicant. It'll be like your name, your phone number, just a basic idea, that this is kind of what I want to do, just that kind of thing. And then once that gets all sorted out, there will be a pre-inspection where we go out and we measure the actual service area. We verify that they have that they meet everything. And then we move on to a planning phase where there's going to be some back and forth. They're going to be required to have like a simple plan. This could be even like hand drawn. It doesn't matter as long as there's a plan that they know that they can follow. And then a plant coverage worksheet and a hardscape worksheet. This is something that I stole from the Southern Nevada Water Authority. So basically, these worksheets help the applicant, sort out that they have enough. What is it? The foliage size, or that they have enough plant material to meet the 50%, or they have enough, rock, to meet the, whatever it is that they actually want to do. And it helps me also verify that stuff. And then once that's all sorted, then the work will start. It doesn't matter who does the work. It could be them themselves. It could be a landscaper. It could be with their Uncle Bob. It could be literally anybody. And they will have 120 days to finish. And then there's a post-inspection, pass or fail. If they fail, then we give them 30 more days. And then if they still fail, that's on them. And once everything passes, we give them the money.
And how much is the total amount that they could get?
It is 2,100
a piece.
Mm-hmm. But not everyone will reach that amount. It's just based on the square footage of what you're replacing. Like my yard in the front is only 500 square feet, or if that, of lawn. So like that wouldn't be enough to meet that full amount. So.
Okay, and then you can have you can have partly lawn and partly the drought resistant stuff too, right?
I don't see why not. It goes against the idea of the program, but this doesn't strictly prohibit that, no.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think what we want to clarify is that we're not going to be allowing turf to be put back. Is that what you're saying? Like if you pull everything out and put turf back in?
I think he's
or
saying
just
that
pulling out part of your turf.
Not removing some of it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think it was both, because if you're going to do your whole backyard and you wanted some green grass in there, you might have to redo the turf
So
because of.
It would be
putting-
non-participating. We would not issue
I know, but
rebates
you
for
wouldn't,
grass.
you wouldn't get reimbursed for that grass, but.
Right, because
you could get
fescue is not
reimbursed
on that
for-
plant list.
Right, you could get reimbursed for what you do, but anything you add, you wouldn't get reimbursed. And also, is there anybody to help you plan this stuff? Or are we doing it all of us, or the person is doing it all themselves?
Well, like I said, there will be some back and forth, but the onus is primarily going to be on them. I mean, it's their design. It's it's what they want. They've already showed interest. They want this, so.
I got a question. Is the cost of the labor is on the citizen, correct?
That's right.
Okay, not the city?
No.
None of it?
We have a
except for
fixed amount
this little part.
of how much that that we can possibly spend.
Are we gonna have any recommendations for people to get hired to do work?
Are we allowed?
We can't do that.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
Okay, yeah.
I will be putting forward like lots and lots of resources. That will take time, but that's about the best that I can do.
I received a call from a citizen today too that was asking about, like in the backyard, if they wanted to remove a section of grass and add brick or pavers, decorative pavers, if that would be allowed. It's not currently correct the way the plan's written. I don't know if that's something you're interested in, that you want to amend it to allow that. Otherwise, that's not included the way it's written.
Yeah, we could probably just include that in the backyard, because the front yard has issues with the hardscape,
Right.
but in the backyard, there's no limitation on how much hardscape you put in your backyard, so that could be something we could look at. Because actually, that's saving even more water,
Yeah,
to be honest. So the idea for this is to maximize water savings, so that would definitely be something that we could look at.
Like a lot of this stuff is, flexible. I'm sure that we're going to find things that we hate, things that we really like, things that we didn't think of. Once this becomes a more mature program, this is just a pilot, right? So
Now, on this also, since we're allowing the little slabs or whatever the bricks and stuff, how about concrete? Like if you wanted to put a round area in there for like a gazebo or something like that, could we put in, go for concrete?
I think they would just fall under the rebate for the removal, but there would be no rebate probably for the install.
So
unless we did it separate.
with the way that this is written, you can only have the 50% mark for hardscape. I don't know. That's up to you.
Well, we don't really. I mean, we don't really have the way it's built. We don't have a rebate for.
Well, there is a rebate for up to 50% hardscape, or rock, mulch, hardscape, that kind of thing, right?
Yeah, but is that bagged cement or truckload? It needs to be for bagged. That way there's no additional cost for truckloads.
Right.
Then it would be feasible.
But that would fall under the turf replacement, right? The $1 per square foot. That's what I'm saying. So if they remove grass and they want to put concrete in the rear yard, they're going to be to replace that, they're going to be at the full cost, because the rebate basically provides for rebate on the irrigation and the valves and the pressure reducer. So the plant material, it's a rebate, so it's not like a reimbursement. So it's really like how much are you going to tear out? We'll give you. So if you take 500 square feet or 1,500 square feet out of grass to put in some concrete in a small area, then you got $1,500 towards putting in concrete in your backyard.
Okay.
Because it's basically just a rebate. We're not going to give you an additional rebate for X amount of pavers or X amount of square feet of plant material. You're getting your rebate based on how much you're tearing out.
We're paying for our water back.
Yeah.
Okay. Nathan, you had a question?
I would just like to say that you may want to allow people that do have dirt. There's a lot of houses right now that have dirt in their backyards that they've been neglecting, and the people are going around with grass right now. So if you want those people to put grass in and start using water, you may want to include, hey, if they have a backyard that doesn't have a ton of grass, because now's the time, people are even trying to sell their houses. They want to make them look nice. And if you say, hey, no dirt, then those people are going to put grass in, and that might be an interesting thing. I mean, if you're looking at all ways to make people, it just seems to me like, hey, you're filling a space, right? You're saying, hey, you're taking it out, but actually you're just filling a space, regardless of what that is. It's the square footage, right?
But it's a significantly less water usage. So if you go from no water to water, that's a net positive of water use, where even if you have 500 square foot of grass and you put in 50% of drought tolerant landscaping that may only be able to need to be watered for 5 minutes weekly, and then putting in ground cover that's going to maintain moisture, you're looking at a significant reduction. And like Larry mentioned, upwards of 50% reduction of that particular house. Now, long term, that could potentially be an option, but I think there is a lot of folks, as we still continue to try to reduce the amount of water usage, people are trying, as unfortunately we're raising people's water rates, because that's just what happens, unfortunately. But people are trying to find ways to reduce their water usage so then they have smaller bills, and also conserving water with limited resources we have. So I think it'd still end up with a net positive in water usage if we were going from dirt. Unfortunately, aesthetically, it doesn't look good, but
Well, I just know that my neighbor right now is getting ready to plant a ton of grass in his backyard. I and he's gonna water it every single day. And if he knew of a plan, well, because it's gonna start off new, so he's gonna water it, and he's gonna do whatever, and he's gonna get the fines if he does, he don't care. And so if there was a plan to where, hey, instead of putting in grass, you could start by putting in drop tolerant stuff, they might do that. But if you take that option off the board, then they're gonna put grass in, and then there goes your water usage. I'm just saying, it should be looked at as an option.
I think that
I
could,
think we can use that as an option, but right now, this is just a pilot program for 10 people. And then after that, we can make the adjustments that we need to possibly expand it and do stuff like you're saying. So what I really want to see is us to move forward with this, see the 10 people, watch their water usage, see if it's cut dramatically, and see if this is something that we want to expand upon. This is the purpose of this coming forward. So hopefully you all will move forward with this. I'll make the motion to move it forward.
and that's all I was going to say was the pilot program's only for 10 people, and the plan is to look at their water usage, and it would be hard to take that person as an example because it's not going to give the council a picture of how much water was saved.
Yeah, and Mary, did you have a question? I saw your hand come up.
I was going to point something else. It's okay.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we have a motion.
I'll second
Got the
it.
motion? Oh, you have a question?
Yes. The reason I have a question is because I'm concerned about the pavers. It's not just water we're saving here, but it's also the heat that pavers cause. They increase the heat in the area. If you put, drought-tolerant plants and mulch, you're not only creating a savings in water, but you're also creating healthier soil and healthier. You're not having the amount of heat, and so just covering everything with cement or pavers is really kind of diminishing what this whole program could do for our community. And plus, it's going to be dusty and dirty, and the air, our air in Kalinga, our wind in Kalinga, you just blow all that dirt right into the air. And so,
When we bring this back after this pilot program, we can discuss all that. But this is just strictly 10 people we're going to look at. We're going to look at the water, how the water decreases, how this is going to help our community, and how we can expand upon it. Mary.
Ask a question of clarification. Whatever they do has to be approved, right? So these people aren't just going to come in and do willy-nilly and get we don't need to really worry about them uprooting everything and demanding their money, right? It's supposed to be aesthetic,
Yeah.
all of that.
Yes, and one of the things that I did want to emphasize is that I want to make sure that the council understands that staff is going to be using a little bit of discretion in terms of these projects. I know it's only 10, it's not citywide, but we wanted to develop a plan that really allowed us some flexibility to work with these residences and really try to guide them in the right direction to prepare a good project for them and help them through the process so we can see where we need to improve and what maybe additional assistance we'll need. If we make this thing citywide, it may require more resources because if not, Larry's gonna have to change his job title and do that full time.
Okay. Okay.
And I can't afford that.
We have a motion on the board. Do we have a second?
I second it.
Okay, we have a second. Roll call, please.
Councilman Atkinson?
Aye.
Councilman Horn?
Thank you, Larry.
Aye.
Councilman Ramirez?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Singleton?
Aye.
Mayor Ramsey?
I also vote aye. Announcements, city manager's announcements?
Just one sec. It will be on the website in the residents section. It'll also be a news item, so if you're looking for it, that's where it'll be. Public Works will make a Facebook post as well, so.
Okay, thank you. City manager's report?
I just have one quick one. On Tuesday, May 3rd, West Hills College is having a job fair. So if you know anyone who's looking for a job, there are going to be a lot of employers there looking to hire.
What's the time on that?
I don't know because I have the time that we're supposed to be there, but it is May 3rd. I know it's on their website and Facebook page. I think it starts maybe around 10 because I have us checking in at 7:30.
Okay, thank you. Council members' reports?
No, I do have a question though for, I don't know if it's gonna be a future agenda or not, but the moratorium on the swimming pools, we were supposed to bring that back in February. Is there any way we can bring that back at one of the next couple meetings so we can figure out if we wanna keep it or not?
We can add it for a future agenda item for May 5th.
Okay, anybody else?
Just a quick announcement, if we could all work together and try to get Adam here on time, we can start on time.
Started the meeting 3 minutes later. Okay. I have no announcements myself either, thank you. Pardon me?
The traffic light on Cambridge is
Oh, yeah.
awesome. We should all be celebrating.
Yeah, everybody remember, we have a traffic light at Cambridge and Elm now, so. Okay.
Just for any questions, that light has a camera with for Caltrans, as Mr. Delgado was saying, and that way people won't get frustrated. It is a smart light, like you're not gonna be waiting there forever. So Caltrans, they were there doing the home monitoring and everything, so they kind of have it to a pinpoint kind of thing.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Future agenda items?
Just one real quick. Can we get a list of whatever bargaining units are going to be coming to us in the next fiscal year, so that way we can see if that's going to affect the outcome of the budget, if the particular bargaining units we're going to get additional funds?
Yes.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, I want to bring back, I know it's on the list too, is bring back possibly more watering days. I know we're down to one watering day right now, and let's be able to talk about it at least. And then we could actually put that with the swimming pool deal. Okay, next we go to closed session, anticipated legal litigation, Government Code Section 54956.9, one case, Bonnie Whitaker claim. And are we going to report anything out? Possibly. Okay. Okay, we're going to adjourn and go to closed session. Thank you, guys.